Welcome back, everybody. At some point in this course, probably very early, I probably said that almost everything that I teach in this course is completely impractical and you'll never have any use for it, especially in healthcare. In the emergency room, no one is ever going to say, "Quick, the patient's about to die. How many protons does sulfur have?" I completely agree that the majority of the stuff, the overwhelming majority of the stuff in this class is not very practical. But I said there would be a point in this course where we did discuss a few practical things, and well, today's the day and this is the video. Half-life actually turns up in medicine. The abbreviation for half-life, just in case you ever see it written this way, just to let you know, is a lowercase t with a 1/2 as a subscript. So sometimes it's written like that. That means half-life. If you see t with a subscript of 0.5, that also means half-life. Just to let you know in case you ever see that. Half-life shows up with a lot of drugs, including drugs that are not radioactive, including medicines that are not radioactive. To explain this, I'm going to tell my blood pressure story. I have high blood pressure. The fancy name for that is hypertension. I take medication to treat the high blood pressure. The joke that I tell my on-ground students when I talk about this, I say, okay, so I took a blood pressure pill this morning. I should be set for the rest of my life. I don't have to take a blood pressure pill again for the rest of my life. Students usually say, no, that's ridiculous. You probably got to take one every day or every so often. And I say, why? This is not necessarily common knowledge, but any medication that you take, it eventually leaves your body. And I'm going to be very crude. Eventually, you either piss it out, shit it out, or breathe it out, or some combination of those things. Eventually, the blood pressure pill that I took today is going to be gone. So I say, all right, I've got a great idea. I'm going to go home tonight, and I'm going to take all the remaining 29 pills in my blood pressure pill bottle. And the students say, well, okay, that would be great because you'll end up dead and maybe we all get an A for the course or something like that, but probably you shouldn't take the entire bottle of pills because you're going to end up killing yourself. So there's a balance that you need to strike when you deal with medicines, where you have to take enough that it fixes your problem, but it's going to eventually disappear, so you have to know how often you need to retake the medicine so your problem stays in check, so that you deal with your problem, but you can't take so much that you end up killing yourself. People who make these types of medicines, people who make prescription medicines, they have to know how long the medication lasts in your body to tell you how frequently that you have to take it. And the way that they measure how long the medicine lasts in your body is by measuring the half-life of the medication. In other words, they want to measure how long it takes for your body to get rid of half of the medication that you took. So a lot of medicines, in fact, every prescription medicine that I can think of, the amount of time it lasts in your body is measured using half-life. Different drugs have different half-lives. Here is an example. This little bit here is a piece of the prescribing information for a medication called atorvastatin. Since most of you are young, you probably don't know what atorvastatin is. The brand name for atorvastatin is Lipitor, which you may have heard of. Lipitor is a drug, or atorvastatin is a drug used to treat high cholesterol. High cholesterol is associated with cardiovascular problems like heart attacks and strokes and things like that, and you can take atorvastatin or Lipitor to reduce the chances of having a heart attack or a stroke or something like that. If you look at the prescribing information for atorvastatin, in blue it says half-life of atorvastatin in humans is approximately 14 hours. So if you take a Lipitor pill, after about 14 hours, half of it's gone. So if I looked at this, my suspicion is that I would have to take a Lipitor pill about once a day because, after about 24 hours, the majority of the Lipitor is gone. That's sort of what these types of pieces of information in the prescribing information are telling you. They're telling you how long it lasts, and it lets the physicians know and the pharmacists know basically how frequently a person needs to take a particular medication. I have a half-life story. You may not have heard of this drug either, but there's a drug called Celebrex, and the generic name is called Celecoxib. Celebrex is used to treat arthritis pain, and I used to work with the people who invented Celebrex. This is the chemist who invented Celebrex. This is the person who was responsible for testing it on people. If you look at the prescribing information for Celebrex, it says the effective half-life is approximately 11 hours under fasted conditions. So if you haven't eaten anything, you wake up in the morning and you have arthritis pain, you can take a Celebrex pill, and after about half the day has gone by, 11 hours, half of that pill is going to be gone. So if I had to guess, you probably have to take a Celebrex pill maybe once or twice a day, maybe twice a day. Now, what's the story? Obviously, you can see they have a little bit of a sense of humor. Just to give you a little bit of background, when you're a chemist trying to make a new medication to treat something, you actually make probably 10 to 20,000 different possible medications that might treat the disease or difficulty that you're trying to deal with. So this guy, he didn't make them alone. He has a team of chemists who are making many thousands of chemicals that they think might treat arthritis pain. And you test them all, and probably the majority of them don't treat arthritis pain at all. Maybe a few do. One of the things that you want to know is okay, this treats arthritis pain, but out of my 10 possible drugs out of the 20,000 that I looked at, maybe 10 of those actually are useful at treating arthritis pain, but I want to know how long each of the 10 drugs lasts in the body. And one of the things that you do, which is pretty unfortunate, but you test these on animals. What they did, one of the drugs that they found, let's say that they had 10 possible drugs, one of the drugs that they found, which was not Celebrex, they found that it had a half-life of about 30 days. Not 11 hours, but 30 days. So it lasted a long time in the bodies of certain animals. And so they were pretty happy about this because they figured it was going to last a long time in humans. They said, okay, that's going to be great because whoever takes this, they'll have less arthritis pain, and they maybe only have to take a pill once every month or once every other month, and this is going to be great. And what this guy told me was that the lawyers at his company got involved, and they said, look, there are going to be millions of people taking this drug, and somebody is going to have an allergic reaction, probably more than just one person. There will be people who have an allergic reaction to this. And if the half-life is 30 days, we cannot tell them to hang out for a month or 2 months with the allergic reaction because we're going to get sued into bankruptcy. So please don't use that drug. Find something with a shorter half-life. And, well, they did. And they called it Celebrex, and the half-life in humans is about 11 hours. But they still had this other drug. And a bunch of people who worked with him, including this guy, had pet dogs. And if you know anything about dogs, they do not like to take medicines. And as they get older, a lot of dogs end up with joint pain and things like arthritis pain. So what they did is they made a bunch of this drug that had the much longer half-life, and they used it to give to their dogs when they had arthritis pain, because the dogs are going to be happy taking a pill once every month or once every other month, and they're not going to sue you. And it turns out that this other drug, I forget what the name of the drug is, but it is now used as a veterinary medicine, just because it's, you don't have to give it to the dogs as frequently. So there's the half-life story. I was going to do a practice problem involving cocaine. Turns out that cocaine, believe it or not, is actually also a prescription medication. It's used as an anesthetic sometimes. Now that's pretty rare that it's used as an anesthetic, but it is. So here's a little bit of the prescribing information. If you look, it says cocaine has a half-life in the plasma. That basically means in the blood. Cocaine has a half-life of about 1 hour. That's one of the reasons why, let's pretend that I am taking the booger sugar. It's one of the reasons why I have to keep going into the bathroom at the clubs, because half of it's gone every hour. So you got to keep taking it because it's disappearing very fast. But let's not pretend that. We can just do the same kind of thing with Celebrex. So let's say that I take 100 milligrams of Celebrex at 8 a.m. And I want to know how much is left after 22 hours. That's 2 half-lives, right? Because the half-life is 11 hours. Time and amount. And so time is 0 hours have gone by, and that is 8 a.m. How much do I have in my system? 100 milligrams. After 11 hours have gone by, well, what's that? Plus 11 hours, that's going to be 7 p.m., I think. And how much is left? Well, it's going to be half. So it's going to be 50 milligrams left after 11 hours. So, in the evening, I will have half of the pill left over running around in my body. If I wait another 11 hours, that's 22 hours. That's going to be 6 in the morning. So the next morning, right, at 6 a.m., I'm going to have about 25 milligrams left, because 25 milligrams is half of what I had 11 hours before. So the answer is, how much is left after 22 hours? If I took 100 milligrams of Celebrex, be 25 milligrams left. All right, so that is an example of half-life in medicine. That's the end of this video. That's the end of this collection of videos. See you next week with a completely new and weird topic.
Oh, give me your attention. There's been a new invention. It isn't any larger than an adding machine. It's only fair to mention, though it's a new invention. It's one that you have heard about, but few have ever seen. It doesn't do division, and it doesn't multiply. It doesn't want to be a bird. It doesn't try to fly. It came about because they made a big atomic